Okay, here we are. We are back in the Jerusalem office of 12 Tribe Films, and we will say hi to Joe Hart. Joe, thanks for joining us today. And to Gracie, thank you for joining us today. First of all, I'm happy that I'm back in Jerusalem, back home, back in the Holy Land. It is a pleasure being here. This is the place to be, the center of the world, the center of the Jewish world. It's inspiring, and hopefully I'll get some videos to bring you in on the inspiration of being here in the Holy Land. In the meantime, we are going to talk today on the hypocrisy of the EU and Obama and the world in its dealings with Iran in general versus its dealings with Israel. So first of all, anyone familiar with the politics, the Middle East politics, with the European interest, the world interest in getting into pressuring Israel to give away her land to terrorists who only want to kill us? Israel is always the one pressured. The terrorists are not pressured to do anything. They're hardly pressured to give up on their terror. They're hardly pressured to give up on educating their children to kill us. And I'm going to say hello to, I think that's Israel Shield for joining us today as well. Also from Israel. So it's a pleasure having you here, Israel Shield. So the context, anyone who follows me knows I like context. The world, Europe, America, when it comes to Israel and the peace process, they're always pressuring Israel, so much so that there's even a movement called the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions movement, which even though European countries say they don't support, because boycott, divestment, sanctions is really about destroying Israel, that there shouldn't even be one state of Israel, the European governments say they don't support that. But European governments fund millions of euros to organizations around the world and in Israel that promotes boycotting Israel. Israel is the only country in the Middle East that has equal rights, where Christians can live safely, where Muslims can live safely. Yet European countries, whether officially or unofficially, because they fund millions of euros towards organizations that promote boycotting Israel. Okay? That is very important fact. European countries, countries around the world are very into pressuring Israel, forcing Israel, even boycotting Israel and boycotting doing business with businesses or buying products in Judea and Samaria. Fact number one. Fact number two, folks. Anyone who follows me knows when we talk about Iran, Iran not only is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism around the world, it is also one of the biggest human rights abusers around the world, abusing its own citizens, women, children, ethnic minorities, political dissidents, human rights abuser by Amnesty, by Human Rights Watch, by the United Nations, by the State Department. Europe knows this. Iran is one of the biggest human rights abusers in the world. And yet, let's get to the hypocrisy, folks. This Iran deal, the deal that Obama wants to push so much, right? He's using all of his effort, all of his strength, all of his political muscle. Wait a second. All of his political muscle. We're saying hi to Chris for being here today also. So thanks so much, Chris, for joining. So while Obama is using all his political muscle to push this Iran deal that the rest of the world also got on board with, Russia, China, the European Union, France, Italy, England, guess what, folks? Days after the deal was finalized, planes were filled with businessmen and diplomats from France, from Italy, meetings in Russia, meetings in China. What's going on, folks? These countries, the European Union, Russia, China, all these countries, well, let's put China aside for a second and Russia. The European countries are rushing to do business with Iran. Again, Iran is a human rights abusing country. Europe, they're always saying we stand for progressiveness, we stand for liberal values, we stand for equality, we stand for equal rights. That's why we're so harsh on Israel. That's why we pressure Israel so much. That's why we're against them being in Judea and Samaria. But yet Iran, the biggest human rights abuser in the world, they are running out the door to do business with Iran, to do business in the millions, in the billions with Iran, one of the biggest human rights abusing countries in the world. Gracie says it right. B for bigotry, D double standards, S anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's what the BDS movement is all about. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Gracie. And it shows the hypocrisy of the world leadership. They talk on a high pedestal about caring about equal rights, caring about values. They talk to Israel, saying, Israel, we're so harsh on you. We pressure you so much because you're one of us, because you're supposed to act like us. Yet, it's all about money, folks. Iran has big business available for the world. Italy, France. Russia's going to be selling weapons. China's going to be selling weapons to Iran. Where's the human rights? Where's the caring about equality? Where's the caring about values? It's not there. They're rushing to do business with Iran in the billions of dollars. Because when it comes down to it, it's about money. It's about interest. They could pressure Israel all they want. Iran, they want Iran's money. Israel doesn't have that money. We're already doing business with all these countries, and they're willing to boycott us and pressure us to do whatever they want us to do. But they should really look at themselves. And they don't care about looking at themselves. But they're hypocrites and they're bigots. And yes, some of us can even say they're anti-Semitic. Because to go after terrorists and human rights abusers and treat them as equals, to want to do business with them in Iran, and yet pressure Israel saying, we don't want to do business with you. We're going to withhold funds with you. We're going to withhold you having programs at universities because of their so-called high values of equal rights and human rights, which is a lie, because Israel has the most human rights and equal rights in the whole Middle East for ethnic minorities and for everyone. Well, you can call that hypocrisy, you can call that bigotry, some people will call it anti-Semitism. But the bottom line is it's wrong. It's so wrong. And people have to start yelling at the top of their lungs at these so-called leaders, at the Obamas and his cronies who are willing to put their loyalty to Obama over loyalty to America because this deal is dangerous to America, and start yelling at the leaders in Europe for their hypocrisy because they don't stand for human rights. They stand for their interests and their monetary interests. And it is so, so sad. And the saddest thing is here, we are already involved in one of the most dangerous times of our present history at this point in time. The growth of the radical jihad all over the world, whether it's the Shiite jihad out of Iran or the Sunni jihad out of the Muslim Brotherhood across the Middle East, it's growing and spreading all over the world. And our world leaders are going into bed with the people behind this. And another lie Obama likes to say is, he says this deal is going to be good for the Iranian people to change their leadership, to change the regime. How stupid does he think many of us are? He is making a deal with the horrible mullahs of Iran. The second they get $150 billion to use for more terror, for more putting down political dissidents, for more putting in prison political dissidents, the stronger it makes Iran on the world level, the weaker the Iranian people will be to make a change of their horrible leadership. So we got to start screaming at the top of our lungs to President Obama to stop lying to the people. He can lie to some of us some of the time, but he can't lie to all of us all of the time. And we have to be calling him out on this. And the hypocrisy to go run and do business with human rights abusers. Like, wake up, world. Wake up to the leaders. So all I could say is, thank God for Israel. Thank God for Israeli leadership. Not just for me as a Jew, as an Israeli living here, but for the world, that there is some moral leadership with a backbone that is standing up for what is right. And Israel Shield says, correct, this is a war between what's right and true versus lies and immorality. 100% Israel Shield. Thanks so much for adding that in. And that's the exact point I was going to get to right now. what this is about. Israel stands up for what's moral. Israel stands up for what's right. Israel is the light unto the nations, while the leaders of the nations are just sinking deeper into the darkness. But there is hope, and the more people stand with Israel, the more people stand and learn the truth and look and learn to differentiate between the lies coming from the Arabs, coming from the journalists, coming from your politicians, and you go after the truth, you will be joining the right side in making a difference for all of humanity. So thanks so much for joining. Everyone, use whatever you can, even if it's just a minute of your time. Call out this hypocrisy, tweet it out to others, share the information with others. There are some articles already out there showing how the European leaders and business leaders are running to do business with Iran, and there should be a huge question mark. If you want to stand for human rights, how are you going to make a difference in Iran for human rights if you're running to do business to make that regime that much worse? Not just on a terror level to the world, but worse to its own citizens that it abuses. So Gracie, thank you for your comments of your positive feedback. Everyone, thanks for joining. You're always welcome to ask questions and comments, and ask at AviAbelow on Twitter or at Meerkat. And I'm going to say hi to Lydia for joining. I'm sorry we're ending right now, right when you came in, but you're more than invited to come back next time, Lydia, or watch this video on Twitter afterwards. But thanks so much for joining here from Holy Jerusalem, where it is hot, really, really hot. But you can't want to be anywhere else than Israel and Jerusalem. And you're all more invited to join. At AviAbelow on Twitter. Any question, any comment, let's tweet this information out there. Let's wake people up so that it's not about helping Israel. It's not about helping Israelis. It's about helping you wherever you live, whether America, Canada, Australia, Europe, anywhere, Middle East. Let's help the Middle East people by bringing out the truth so they can make a difference. And this bad Iran deal can be stopped so that a better deal can be made. Shalom from Jerusalem.